we do it in a united way. We do it together. And I believe that we have all identified corruption to be the one stumbling block for the progress and the sustenance of peace and stability in this country. Because of corruption, we have high infant mortality rate and high maternal mortality rate because our health system is weak. We have so many Liberians dying from easily curable diseases in other countries because of corruption. There are more children out of school in Liberia than in school because of corruption. They are denied access to education. You heard the president saying in his message this year that he only rehabilitated Ware Heston, one portion of Ware Heston. They didn't tell us he built 100 schools or 50 schools, nothing. All due to corruption. The resources are not there, and the little ones that are there because of corruption are put into high salaries that we don't know. Under the law, we should know the salaries of the president, the vice president, chief justice, the speaker, the president pro tempore, and the high officials of government. We don't know. It's kept secret. And because of corruption, we are among the most hungry countries in the world, countries with the highest number of hungry people, because we are food insecure. We don't produce the rice that we eat. We only produce less than 20 bags out of every 100 bags that we eat in this country. Because of corruption, we have bad roads. We can't maintain our roads. I mean, there used to be corruption, but it's worse now. I know when I was growing up, living in Tapeta, people were coming from Cape Palmas, even during the rainy season, the roads were always passable. This thing about you can't go to southeastern Liberia now is due to corruption. You can't go to Zozo or Vanjama now. You can't go to Babolo easily. It's all due to corruption that denies the government itself the resources to maintain our roads. And you know, roads are also connected to our safety. People are sick, they have to go to hospital. People in Grange, they can't come to the regional hospital in Tapeta, the GFD hospital, because of bad road, because of corruption. The hospital itself used to be, number one in that region. It had a lot of equipment, medicine, and all of that. I understand the one CT scan that was there was taken by the JFK. So you don't have that diagnostic equipment that was there that got people going to Tapeta. And by the way, the hospital was going to be the hub that was going to, the instrument or the one factor that was going to develop Tapeta so fast. People don't know is the Ganta United Methodist Hospital that developed Ganta, because many people went there for treatment and stayed. And so, that hospital, but now the hospital, the last time I went there, they are experts there, but it's not the same way it was when I saw it maybe 5-6 years ago. All due to corruption. And I hear the president saying, I want to build one more JFK. It made me laugh, there used to be a man here, I think he's there now, John Bear, and he was head of LFA. He said, the Sierra Leone LFA, the Nigeria LFA, the Ghana LFA, and he didn't know what LFA meant, Liberian Football Association. So you can build another hospital, but not JFK, because JFK was a donation from the American government to the Liberian people. So I think it was ill-advised there to say another JFK. But hospital is not the building, it's what happens inside the building. And I think that, for example, if government were to redirect the $3,090,000 that all the lawmakers received and just put in JFK one time, I strongly believe, and I talk to doctors working at JFK, they say, Councilor Gongloe, if that $3,090,000 that the lawmakers divided among themselves was given to JFK, it will make JFK number one hospital in West Africa in terms of the diagnostic equipment that JFK would need, in terms of even having solar power to power the hospital, 24 hours around the clock in terms of having experts, specialists from around the world. They will be paid for that money. And then we don't have, then Liberians will not have to go to Ghana or India or anywhere to seek. Now they are even going to Rwanda to seek medical help, go to the hospital. So we have the ability, the resources are here to make life better for a better Liberia. But it's due to corruption that the resources are not there. And this is the kind of message that I was telling the Liberian, I was carrying around to the 12 states I went. In fact, I didn't know I would go to 12 states. But when I entered the United States and I spoke in Atlanta and then in Philadelphia, the other Liberians started inviting me to go to their states.
So that's the meaning of the broom.
The meaning of the broom is to sweep corruption.
Now, Councillor Gongloe, you want to be president of Liberia, and I know as we move on, we'll talk about different issues. We'll talk about justice, we'll talk about the rule of law, but let's focus a little bit on corruption and give us a practical policy prescription about how a Liberian government under Tier 1 Gongloe will treat corruption in the context of probably minimizing it, or that you will be placed on record for saying, hey, listen, since 1847, under this leadership, at least corruption has been fought. What are your policy prescriptions? What's your idea?
So let me pledge to Liberian people that if elected, in 1 year, they will know that we have made a departure from corruption. And Mahatma Gandhi said, if you want to bring about change, you should be the change that you expect in the world. So I will start with myself. My asset declaration, my salary, my benefits will be on the Executive Mansion website.
We should hold you by this.
Hold me by this. Transparency and openness is the one way to prevent corruption. And you start with yourself. And then the salaries, benefits of all ministers, chief justice and justices, the president pro tem, the speaker, everybody will be on the Executive Mansion website. The salaries and benefits of even civil servants will be, so that the Liberian people can judge whether the disparity between the president's salary and the lowest paid civil servant makes sense. Whether the disparity between the ministers and the lowest paid civil servant makes sense. Because these are the matters on which the Liberian people will judge the government. Because it's their taxpayer, that is their tax money that pays those who serve in the government. And they have a right to know. How can you be an employer and you don't know the salary that you pay the employees? It's just unfair. It is wrong. The people of Liberia have a right. And that is under Article 15 of the Constitution. Article 15C says that people, not me, or probably, or having privilege, it says the people have a right to know about their government and its functionaries. The president is a functionary. The vice president is a functionary. Chief justice, speaker, president pro tem. These are all functionaries, including the ministers and civil servants. Then the people don't know how much they make. And they do it secretly. They keep it that way so that when a minister, after 3 months in government, is billing, 4-story billing, you want to question him, but sometimes the ordinary, maybe that is salary. Maybe that is benefit. They don't know. They have a right to know. They have a right to know the per diems that the president and everybody else receives to travel. It is their right to know. They shouldn't be speculating about it. So here's what I would do. I have a 12-count prescription, but I'll just summarize. First, I have talked about the openness, my salary, benefits, and my asset declaration value will be on the internet. And then with all these people. Number 2, I will institute and if you're a minister, you don't declare your asset and put it in the Executive Mansion website, you will not get appointed. Before you get in fact, before your name is sent to the Senate, that asset declaration must already be on the website. Otherwise, because the Senate needs to know, so they can question you if you are hiding your assets. The Senate, because when you appear there, you take oath. Everything you say there If you lie, that's perjury. You could be prosecuted for that. And under my administration, if you lie there, we have the Ministry of Justice prosecute you for perjury. That's where we begin. Then, when you are confirmed and everything, you are appointed, every 3 months, I will introduce something I've not heard of anywhere in the world. Quarterly lifestyle audit, not institutional audit, not your ministry. Your lifestyle, the way you are spending money. So if the people know your salary as a minister, and then your salary, your asset, your benefits, and everything, even if your grandfather wills something to you, we should know all that one. It should be on the website. Then you come to the president first. Everything must start with the president. Leadership, for example, come to me. The president in 3 months, we just saw that you've been in power for 3 months.
Who's going to audit you? Who's going to do the GAC?
GAC will send auditors around. The GAC will have auditors coming and will be changing them every time so that they don't get accustomed to whoever they're auditing. They come to the president and say, the president, we know that your entire asset and your salary does not exceed $50,000 or 60,000, whatever the amount. But you just bought a $200,000 Mercedes Benz that is controlled by electricity. Where did you get that money from? The Liberian pool, I have a right to know. I start scratching my head. I can't say that somebody gave it to me as a gift because the code of conduct says that government officials, people working in government, can receive any gift beyond $250. I can't say that.
Will you give the GAC that kind of political will to audit you?
I am saying it today and record it. The GAC will have the political will. If they don't start with me, they will have a problem. And then, if I can explain, let me say on radio today, I will resign. If I have a questionable expenditure beyond what I'm worth as president, if I cannot explain, I will resign. But because I want to transform Liberia, I will not do such a shameful thing. So if you're a minister in my government and you are building a 3, 4, 5 story building that is worth $200,000, $300,000, and you can explain, when that report comes to me, immediately you are dismissed and turned over to LACC for further investigation and prosecution, which will lead to you going to jail for 5 to 10 years, and your assets recover and turn over to the state. I strongly believe, Clarence, that when 2, 3, 4, 5 ministers are in jail and their properties are taken by the state, those who have inclination in government to steal will police themselves. And those who cannot be in government without stealing will be a federal government job. I want to make government a place that people will be afraid to go to, but by doing so, make government service a respectable job so that the citizens of Liberia can respect government officials. Today, the presumption that everybody in government steals.
Will you not be will you not go behind the scene and take your phone and call the GSC and say, this is my interest, let it go? Will you not influence anything?
I have not done it before, and I've served in government, and I'm not going to do it again. People close to me tell people, that man there, we just campaigning for him, but we know we'll not have any exceptional privilege. They know that. You know, I will never do such a thing. And I want to be on record. Anybody I call as president, if you expose me and record me and put it on the radio, I got a call from the president that this is his interest. I'm making a contract today with the Liberian people. Let him do it. Because Liberia, you know, is shamefully way behind every country you think of in Africa. And then we keep saying we are the oldest country. We should be ashamed to say it. Because you're an old man and all your little brothers have houses and you are being evicted from a room because you can't pay rent. You should be ashamed. I mean, you're an irresponsible old man. That's where we are. There are countries now that are even deciding in Africa here whether to get aid or not. They don't want to get loan. They are becoming so self-reliant. And those countries are less endowed compared to Liberia. You look at Rwanda. They are producing cell phones. They are having factories. This is a country I've been to twice. It's physically challenged. It's a landlocked country, which means it has no seaport. It has to be negotiating with other countries for the goods to go through. And economically, they are developing. It is next to Botswana in terms of corruption index. It is the second least corrupt country in Africa. That's why they're developing.
What's your idea for increasing the Liberian national budget? How will you do it on a Gongloe presidency?
So my economic policy will put money in the pockets of Liberian people and also put money in the treasury. Here is what I want to do. I want to create incentive. There will be incentives, very little incentive for businesses in Monrovia, but there will be increased incentives for any company that establishes a factory 50 miles away from Monrovia. Because, factory employs people. So, and there will be incremental incentives, including government even providing land for certain type of investment based on the number of persons you employ. We'll drop taxes for those companies. So they will not pay corporate taxes. But you know what? If your company is in Kipamas, or in Tapeta, or in Zozo, or in Bopolu, or in Vubadi, wherever, all over the country. If you employ 500 persons in Kipamas, for example, those 500 persons there are two things. Those 500 persons will pay income taxes to government. Each of them will be income tax from each of the employees. So payroll tax, government gets money. That's an expansion of government revenue. But here's the other thing. The 500 persons getting salary will pay rent to the house owners in Kipamas. The house owners will get income. That income will also be taxed by government. They will use the money from their rent to also buy other goods and services in Kipamas. And the people who generate income will also pay income taxes to government. Government is expanding the tax base by this policy of decentralizing the economy and creating employment centers all over the country. And then, when that happens, money is going in the pockets of the people. Money is also coming into the treasury of government so that government can use it to strengthen our health system, our educational system, build our roads, help to produce more food and all of that. But I'm doing it, and somebody said the next question is energy. In my plan, in my 10-point plan, I have energy. Look, my travel to America, I went to Iowa. I'd like to give that example. I saw windmills over. I saw two young men from Grand Judah. They work with the windmill system. Windmill produces electricity. I just saw the windmill oil turning. They told me something that Liberian people need to hear. This is a council of Gongloe. Liberian government can put windmills from Cape Mon to Kipamas along the Atlantic coast. And the breeze from the Atlantic Ocean will just keep turning the windmill. And as the windmills are turning, we are getting electricity 24 hours around the clock. In fact, they say there will be excess electricity that Liberia can sell to other countries. And so when you have electricity, it makes sense to put the factories all over. But because even right now, with the West African power pool, there's electricity in Kipamas, River G, Fishtown there, and Tapeta, Grand Judah, those places along their foreign coast, so they can go there. Then we need to improve our roads. When I was growing up, there were caterpillars all over the country. There were public yards in Tapeta, Petro, Saglepe, Ganta, all over the place, Zozo, and they were maintaining the roads. So you maintain the road until you pave the road and make them all-weather roads. So power, with the economy expanding, even with the energy company, the people will be working too and earning income. Then when I went to Minnesota, I saw the young man, Winfred Russell, is on the city council, I think Brooklyn Park or so. He said, let me show you the solar farm. The solar farm is just a fraction of the Anthony Thomas Stadium. He said this solar farm is what is producing electricity 24 hours for this city. It can be done in Liberia. Then interestingly, the one that we all know, hydroelectric power. Liberia has more water than any country in West Africa because we have 43% of the remaining tropical forest in West Africa. And you know, forests can hold water.
Now,
So
you have all these brilliant ideas. You worked in the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government. You were privileged as the Solicitor General. Later, you went to become the Minister of Labor, a cabinet minister in the president's government. How come, you were not able to talk to your former boss, the president, to do some of the things you're talking about? Corruption, for example. Ellen is on record for saying, wait a minute, this is something that I was not able to do. Somebody like you worked in the government. You were Solicitor General. You sat in that privileged position. How come you were not able to advise the president to strengthen our judiciary, the justice system?
You know, that's the thing about government. Outside government have been more functional than inside government when it comes to dealing with everything. When you're in government, you deal with the little sector that you are given. Even the ministry, people go to senior staff meeting and you can talk about you got your department. My department of prosecution, for example, I could do very little with administration and with other things. You can give suggestions. My work was, and each of the areas in government is so tasking. And let's face it, sometimes if you talk about other people in an area, you're critical of them, people get thin skin, you want to talk about what you're doing, talk about your own and how you can improve it. So I can say to the Liberian people how I transform prosecution. There's so much work there. I can talk about how I transform the Ministry of Labor in infrastructure, under the interim poverty reduction strategy and the poverty reduction strategy, there were pillars, and people work on different pillars. You want to concentrate on your area. It does not mean that we didn't have, as ministers, as Solicitor General, conversation with the president, but you got to be careful too when you're conversing with the president. Sometimes, like, you're reporting to your other colleagues.
What did you do differently when you were Solicitor General?
Right. When I became Solicitor General, I found that all of the candidates, except the IT candidate doing it on most candidate, were non-lawyers. Some of them were not even high school graduates.
They were non-lawyers?
Non-lawyers. Some of them were not even high school graduates. So, as I'm not going to work with the people, they are getting the jobs through the different warring faction model.
Proportional representation.
Through the different warring factions. So they were there. But the salary that government was offering, $200, $300, was the salary that lawyers were not prepared to pay. I assigned to Grand Baza County on a 6-month contract. They were getting $800 a month. And in town here, there were also lawyers. So when they did that for 18 months and the money ran down, and then Ome said, we can't continue, I put it to the government, I went to the cabinet, I was not cabinet minister, then and convinced the cabinet that only rule of law will sustain the peace when Ome is gone. So they should help me to build prosecution. Councillor Felicia Coleman, former Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, to head it so that she can give proper direction and make it strong for succeeding directors. And so these are the things that I did. It transformed prosecution tremendously. So somebody will ask, how many people you prosecuted for corruption? We started the prosecution case with Judy Bryan, Edwin Snow was speaker, all of them. We had an indicted war. I had an American expert who helped me do it, and we had a good case. We produced all the evidence, getting macro. Well, we say that in law, we say the purpose of prosecution is not to convict, but to see that justice is done. So they were acquitted, but at least they were held to account. They may have been tampering with the jury. We changed the first set of jury when we discovered our tampering. Second set of jury, we also heard later on there was jury tampering. But the way the jury was selected those days was not good. Was not good at all, because they would just go as if you are going to be indicted for corruption. What's wrong with putting 10 names in and putting $100, $1,000 in envelope, give it to the Township Commission of West Point to sign it and send it